Disney movies are known for their family-appropriate content and the warm and fuzzy feeling audiences get from watching them over again with each new generation. However, these saccharine and cozy films come from stories that are anything but lighthearted. Here are 10 Disney movies that were secretly based on disturbing stories. The Little Mermaid. Disney's 1989 animated film is plenty odd as it is, about a young mermaid who is far too obsessed with the human world. Ariel is a rebellious teenager who just wants to deny everything she was taught by her father, the king, just to hang out with humans. The Disney version is already a bit strange, as the wicked Ursula makes a deal with Ariel that would give her legs in exchange for her voice. She gives Ariel 3 days to get Prince Eric to kiss her. The original Hans Christian Andersen story is much darker. After the mermaid gets her legs, she must either convince the prince to marry her or she dies. When she is turned into a human, her legs and feet feel like she is being stabbed with knives with every step she takes. Her prince treats her poorly by belittling her at every turn and then marries someone else anyway. The Little Mermaid's sisters try to convince her to kill the man she loves in order to save her own life, because apparently that is an acceptable deal in this story. However, she denies the offer and ends up in purgatory for 300 years. Not exactly as fun as hanging out with a singing Jamaican crab. Cinderella. Cinderella was first an early oral folk tale, but the most popular written versions are Cendrillon by Charles Perrault from 1697 and the Grimm brothers from the 19th century. In these early tales, Cinderella has a bit of a mystical power, and the presence of a fairy godmother type character in her life comes from a tree she grows on her mother's grave, for which she watered with her tears. Not exactly the cheeriest scenario. When the prince goes on his search to find the owner of the abandoned slipper, the stepsisters hack off parts of their feet to fit them in the dainty shoe, filling it with blood. The stepsisters certainly do not live happily ever after in this morbid tale. Rather, they are blinded by Cinderella's bird friends who peck their eyes out. Snow White. In Disney's 1937 classic Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, the Wicked Queen is fairly demented for a family film. She hires a huntsman to find Snow White to kill her. In the Grimm fairy tale, she is much more specific, by requesting he return Snow's lungs and liver to consume. The huntsman cannot go through with it and instead returns the organs of a wild boar. The queen makes 3 attempts at ending the life of the fair-skinned teen, with the poison apple being the one that finally gets the job done. Rather than the prince showing up to give her a kiss, he carries Snow White's casket away to keep with him. The casket drops, jarring Snow White's lifeless body and dislodging the poison apple from her throat, which somehow revives her. The queen is invited to Snow White and the prince's wedding, but is forced to wear burning shoes and to dance until she drops to her death. Pocahontas. While Disney usually gets their source material from old fairy tales, there are occasions when they delve into the history books and base their films on real-life people. 1995's Pocahontas was a real Native American woman whose experiences were nothing like the animated film. There was no real love story between Pocahontas and John Smith, which was a good thing because she was just a young child and not a mature teenager, and he was a grown man much older than depicted in the animated film. In real life, she was captured by colonists. After being in prison for over a year, she was married off to a wealthy tobacco farmer. She was forced to live in London with her husband, and when she was finally on her way to return to her home, she died of an unspecified illness. Pinocchio. 1940's animated film Pinocchio certainly has its disturbing moments, but it is nothing compared to the story it's based on. Italian author Carlo Collodi first released The Adventures of Pinocchio in a serial format and then in a book in 1863. In Collodi's version, Pinocchio is more than just a fibber. He is an awful little boy who actually murders Jiminy Cricket by the first act. Geppetto also ends up in jail thanks to the little wooden monster boy. Pinocchio is consistently horrible throughout the story, and is even incredibly unkind to an unlucky fox and cat duo, resulting in them robbing him and trying to hang him. The Lion King. The Lion King is another film based on a story, but rather than a fairy tale, The Lion King is loosely based on William Shakespeare's play, Hamlet. Simba is Hamlet to his Uncle Scar's Claudius. Just like in Hamlet, the king is killed by his own brother in order for him to take over the kingdom. Of course, The Lion King may be heartbreakingly sad at times, but it is certainly a lighthearted barrel of laughs compared to Hamlet. While everything works out for Simba and his animal friends by the closing credits, Hamlet ends with everyone, including Claudius, Hamlet, and his mother, all dead from either being poisoned or stabbed. So goes the circle of life. Sleeping Beauty. There have been quite a few interpretations of Sleeping Beauty, and most of them make the wickedness of Maleficent as Sleeping Beauty's antagonist seem like minor problems. In what may be the most disturbing take on the tale, Sleeping Beauty is named Talia, and she falls into a death-like sleep after touching a spinning wheel which pierces her finger with a flax splinter. While she sleeps, a king comes to her bed and has his way with her. The sexual assault results in Talia becoming pregnant with twins and then giving birth, all while remaining asleep. It is not until one of her children sucks out the splinter from her finger that she is awoken. Poor Talia falls asleep and then wakes up to find out she has 2 children from the king who took advantage of her comatose state. The story ends with her marrying the king anyway. Mulan. Mulan tells the story of a young woman who poses as a man to take her father's place in the army. While the 1998 Disney film takes great strides in female empowerment, the original story is not nearly as pleasant. The story of Hua Mulan is based on a real Chinese warrior. In The Ballad of Mulan, it is revealed that she does not simply return home with everything working out just fine for her. Hua Mulan returns home and was forced to be a concubine to a foreign ruler. Rather than accepting what was demanded of her, she killed herself. The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Taking source material from Victor Hugo, the man who also wrote Les Miserables, was an odd choice to make a family-friendly animated film, but Disney worked its magic once again for the 1996 movie. The film ends with Quasimodo saving the beautiful Esmeralda, and the villagers accepting the deformed man who was always hiding away in the bell tower as a human being who deserves to be a part of society. In the Hugo version, Esmeralda is executed in the town square, which Quasimodo views from the bell tower. After Folo laughs about Esmeralda's demise, Quasimodo shoves Folo off the ledge to his own death. The conclusion of the story finds Quasimodo's bones discovered years later in Esmeralda's grave, as he spent his last days next to her lifeless body. Frozen. Sometimes Disney takes classic tales and alters them so much that the source material is unrecognizable. Hans Christian Andersen's The Snow Queen doesn't include two sisters, but rather a boy and a girl who are so close they are practically siblings. The story opens with the devil creating an evil mirror. Once the mirror shatters and pierces a person's heart, their heart becomes a lump of ice. After the boy gets the piece of the mirror stuck in his eye and heart, the little girl searches for him. Rather than having the charming Kristoff and his reindeer Sven, the Snow Queen includes a little girl who robs people and holds a knife to her reindeer's neck just for kicks. Even with the shards of glass stabbing children's hearts and nutty klepto kids, the Snow Queen is one of the few stories that ends happily ever after. What do you think of our list? Which Disney movies with disturbing origins did we forget? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel to see more great videos like this one.